perils of a deliverer. The prayers and the perils of a deliverer. We are looking at humans like ourselves and learning from them. Humans that made human mistakes in some cases, most cases, except for Samuel and maybe one or two others, Daniel and stuff like that. And how their relationship with God was unbroken. They might have been broken by human default, but their relationship with God remained, their connection unbroken. They might have shorted out for a moment, their connection being strengthened. So today, we are going to look at Moses' prayers and the perils of a deliverer. Moses is one of my sweethearts. I love him. There are some that I do love. Moses, Daniel, you know. And to get a little backdrop on Moses, and again, we're looking every single human mentioned, we're going to look at them and learn something from them. Oh, yes, we are. His parents were God-fearing people. His father was a man of Levi, they said. He was of the house of Levi, and Levi was the priesthood, eventually became the priesthood. So from that tribe of Levi, which is one of the 12 sons of Jacob, Levi became known as the priesthood. So you had to be from that tribe in order to qualify for being a priest in the temple. His father was a Levite by nationality. The woman, which is his mother, was a very staunch and devoted, we would call her Christian today, or we would say believer. And she became pregnant with this child, and somehow she felt within her that he was destined for something special. So that when the Pharaoh saw that the Israelites were becoming too plentiful, too numerous, he decided he was going to have all the male children killed. And so, well, first of all, the tradition of the pharaohs began that way. It was followed right through until it reached a point where Moses' life was actually endangered. His mother, seeing that he was, it says, he was comely. And mothers, I'll tell you something about mothers. They have, and the fathers, this is not to say that you all are not spiritual enough. It's not to say so. Women have a special intuition. So she looked at this child, and she saw that there was something special about him. And instead of destroying him, she decided to make this little basket, cover it with tar, put it on the river. We all know the story by now pretty well. And Pharaoh's daughter saw the basket, and she took Moses and raised him as her son in the palace. I get to smile. I get to feel a little burst of zeal and hope, and I want to pass it on to you. When God has your destiny in hand, you don't need to worry about the vicissitudes of life. Where life takes you, you're going to end at the port of destination that God himself designated for you. Don't worry about circumstances. Oftentimes the devil helps God to get you where you've got to go to. So when the challenges come, you don't get discouraged. Build stamina, build endurance, build patience. Submit sometimes to abuse. And when I say so, I'm not talking, we're not going domestic violence. Sometimes you go on a job, for instance, and this boss might not realize that you are human too. And this boss might try to speak to you in a less than complimentary fashion. Insults. Managers, you meet people all the time. Take away your rights. Sometimes the abuse is your parents. They hate you. Perhaps sometimes you look just like your father. You look just like your mother. Put down after put down. Scourge with whips. All kinds of things. Leave you and go for days. There are some greats. Some persons who have become successful that can tell you a story. That would break your heart. But when God has your destiny, don't worry. I had asthma, pneumonia, and pleurisy, and everything you could imagine. Was dying 3 times. This mother and daughter, whose names I will not call, kept begging my mother for me. The daughter was a teacher, an excellent one. I give her that up to this day. And she, like some of the other persons that would come, my mother used to sew for a vast clientele. She was one of them that would love to carry conversation with me and ask me big stuff. And I would give them answers that amazed them. I started to read that too. My grandfather used to bring books for me. Pride and Prejudice, all kind of big stuff. And My mother would not give me to them. And when the third time they set up my funeral at Theodore's funeral home, mind you, Duke Street, Port of Spain, and my mother came home and everybody crying and bawling, the neighbors, everybody wailing, wailing, wailing. My grandmother was shaking the bedpost. They had a big, long time for a poster bed with some brass knobs that you used to have to clean with lemon and, if you didn't have money, or brass soap. And I remember my grandmother's face. She was a beautiful woman and very, very staid and proper. And the sisters came in, my older sisters came in, their little tie on. They were used to go to Duke Street Easy School where, when I was about 4 sometimes I would go. When my mother saw them crying, she made one dash for the bed. And I was there, could not breathe, couldn't help myself. And I felt as though God himself breathed for me. And as he said, you're not going to die. This is when my mother came in. She swooped me up in her arms. And she ran all the way down Tragreet Road with me to Alexandra Street. On the right-hand side was Sinclair. You go down Tragreet Road, Alexandra Street. She went to a little wooden door in a wall, and she knocked, and a maid came out that day. That time they used to wear a cap and apron. I can tell you all the details. She had on like a royal blue little hat with, cloth, and the apron and everything. And she, when my mother knocked, she said, Dr. Robertson is not in. My mother, I could feel the disappointment because her shoulders, like it slumped. She turned around and she started to run with me. And they used to wear, some of them, long dresses, and like they themselves, they would have like an apron. And she started to go up Tragreet Road. Bam, the rain came down. Out of a blue. The shower came down. Wow. So she took that apron and she put it up so and covered me. And when she reached just across from where our barracks yard was, 75 Tragreet Road, a tram car stopped. Long time used to have tram cars. The sides open and the seats. And in that tram car sat Dr. Robertson. Jesus, have mercy. When he did so, and he saw my mother, he stopped he told the tram car, don't move, he's coming out. Dr. Robertson came out, a white English doctor. I knew him because he knew me. So often he attended to me. He had an umbrella, a black umbrella, and the head was a duck, a little duck head carved on it, but it was a big umbrella. He put it over my mother and I, and he took us down in the yard, put me on the bed, worked on me, sent her to the pharmacy to buy whatever. They used to have thermofuge flannel at the time that they would put on you. It was kind of a fluffy kind of stuff, but it had medication in it, Paulson syrup, some of everything. Cutting a long story short, after that episode, when those people came and asked for me again, with a breaking heart, my mother, because they said, well, oh, Pearl, give her a chance to live. The place here is overcrowded. It's damp because from the great house, which ran alongside it, the great house ran right out to the street, literally, the pavement. So the side gate was right down in the yard opposite our room, which was the first room, so all the water would come down there. These people said, well, is that have her getting sick? So my mother gave me to them, not give for keeps. She let me go and live. She sacrificed because my mother didn't part with her children under any conditions, just like myself. Do you know something? At the time I was 6 years old, and I want you to know, within about 3 months, I began to feel a little better. And by 6 months, more better, if I could take liberty to use the English language. More better, which is not correct, but I mean in terms of my health progress. I felt better. These people, it turned out, now she took pride in my education. I was like, to her, a trophy holding up, because I had to be entered in all the competitions and different things, spelling bee, blah, blah, blah. I'm cutting a long story short. They had a fowl house, and I mean a fowl house. You go down in the yard, and by just a short distance, this fowl house ran down that way. There were, on top, fowls, fowls, fowls. Down below, fowls, fowls, fowls. As you came in, on the side here, another long thing, turkeys, turkeys. And then on the right hand, if you come in and you make a left, on both sides you had fowls, ducks, turkeys, whatever. Every morning, before I go to school, I had to go down in that fowl house. And they bend a barrel hoop. I don't know if you all know long time barrels. I'm talking about like wooden barrels that they used to take and make tubs, wash tubs with. They take that and they bend it. I had to scrape out all of those little compartments with the fowl mess. I had to take the fowls, go down to the end, had a gate, put all of these creatures outside there with their different growing mash, whatever mash, bash, rice, blah, blah, blah. And then come in and scrape out and wash out their cubs. And they staying in there for the day, out in the enclosure, till in the evening when I had to put them back in. I had to stand on a box and wash my clothes over a sink in the yard at the back of the house. I got little to eat. Half of a hop's bread, which used to be about the size of your fist, and a little cup of what we call green tea. People say Lipton tea now. I used to be hungry until I like if I'm losing my mind. I'm going to tell you all, maybe the rest, another day. Don't talk about licks for nothing. Anytime she vexed, licks, I used to hide behind the door to the bedroom with a little wooden box, writing poetry. Jesus be praised. I'm going to tell you the rest. When I bathed one day as a child, out in the little bathroom thing, we had like galvanized. And when I was finished bathing, and I came in the house, because I was in the yard, the bathroom was, she called me. Listen, when a woman called me, I used to tremble like a leaf. Come here, girl, when I go. She said, you bathed? I said, yes, Auntie. You bathed? Girl, you telling me you bathed? I said, but my skin is still wet, Auntie. This woman called me, you know what happened? Stuck in my hair, because I had a good bit of hair, was a sliver of palm olive soap. I must have tried to wash my hair and the little sliver stick there. That woman made me go, bathe again, and then she put me to kneel down on a grater, them long time grater that they used to have. They make it and it have 2 pieces of wood. The great coconut. In the sun on the back gallery. In the house right next to Sawa Government School. It used to be. When the mother passed by, and she was afraid of the daughter, she idolized this daughter. She took a chance and she said to me, beg pardon, beg pardon. She will let you get up if you beg pardon. So when this Brunhilde passed by, I say, beg pardon, Tanty. Beg pardon, no, I don't know what beg pardon for. I didn't do nothing, but if it's beg pardon to get me up and holding book in my hand, you know, 2 big book on either hand. I got up. About a half an hour to an hour, my mother came, because my mom used to supply money at the end of the month and all my clothes, and sometimes she will bring food and what's not. Somehow, I managed to be up before she came. I was sitting in the living room with her. But the way Madam, whatever her name is, fix it, is where I could be facing a crease. She had a crease in the door. And she only my mother couldn't see her, but I could. Every time she come in by there, so she threatening me that if I tell my mother what and what she will do. I'm going to end by there for now. I didn't tell my mother anything. And one of the reasons why I didn't tell my mother, I associated where we lived in the barracks yard. Psychologically, I associated it with sickness and death. Like I seen myself all over again on the bed dying and can't breathe. And secondly, my mother had enough problems of her own with a land dispute on my father's side. They were divorced, or separated, let me say, separated. And they made her come and bury him, pay the price to bury him, the expense, under the pretext that the little 2-room tapia house was hers. Another time, another place, another time, another day. What I want to say to you is, Moses, if the Pharaoh, first of all, didn't want the male children killed, and if Moses' mother did not see that he was a goodly child, he would not have gotten to where he rose to being a prince of Egypt. I want to say to you, the path to a powerful relationship with God may not be an easy path. The path to where God wants to place you may not be an easy road. Build relationship as an individual with your God. The prayers my mother taught me, seeing my mother pray, her relying on God for everything. She made me a believer in God. I will never let him go, and he will never let me go. He has brought me through a whole lot. And it's like water running off a duck, the back of a duck. When you have a relationship with God, you can stand. Moses was able to be used by God to be a deliverer. And I believe, beyond the shadow of doubt, I have been called to do the same. He was not perfect. He killed an Egyptian. And he must have had, throughout the course of his life, mistakes. But he was put in that palace to train to be a deliverer. He was put through all those circumstances. If you're a God-fearing person, trust in God with all your heart. No matter what they do to you in this life, you're going to get to your destination. You are going to fulfill the destiny that God has for you. Stick with it in Jesus' name.